My mom pretended to be sick to control me until I found her secret vacation bookings. When I was 20, I dropped out of college with exactly 3 semesters left. I told my friends it was for financial reasons, but the real reason was that my mom called me crying, gasping over the phone, telling me her heart wasn't working right again. She had collapsed at home and no one was there. If I had died, no one would have even noticed until my body started to rot, she whispered. That line haunts me still. I rushed home that weekend. I remember standing in the doorway of our tiny, familiar kitchen, watching her shuffle around in her slippers, a pill organizer on the table, a hot water bottle tucked under her arm. She looked pale, tired, but determined to play the martyr. You shouldn't have come, she said, voice soft but clearly pleased I had. But I just don't know how much longer I'll be around. They say my heart's failing. And the tests, well, they weren't good. She wouldn't show me the test results, of course. Too depressing, she'd say. Just know I need you close. My mom had always been dramatic, but this was different. Her vulnerability felt real. I couldn't sleep at night thinking she might die in the next room. So I made the responsible choice. I withdrew from school and moved back in. The first few months were rough. She said the medications made her dizzy, so I took over the groceries, the cooking, the bills. She'd have these episodes at night where she'd clutch her chest and sob, and I'd sit by her bed, helpless, waiting to call an ambulance. But she always stopped me. Hospitals don't help. They just drain your bank account, she'd moan. And I listened. God, I listened to every word like it was gospel. I got a part-time job nearby at a local bookstore, just enough to pay for what her disability check didn't cover. Any plans I had, grad school, traveling, even dating, were put on indefinite pause. My boyfriend at the time, Dylan, broke up with me after 3 months of canceled dates and late-night sob sessions. I'm dating your mom's nurse, not you, he said. It hurt, but I understood. I was barely myself anymore. The strange thing was, Mom didn't seem to get any worse. In fact, she had days where she was downright chipper. She'd get up early, make pancakes, and hum to herself. But if I so much as mentioned going out with coworkers or catching a movie, she'd suddenly start coughing violently or say she felt faint. I brushed it off. Chronic illness could be unpredictable, I told myself. Some days are good, others are catastrophic. The red flags didn't register right away. I wanted so badly to believe her. Once, I came home to find her vacuuming the house, moving furniture, sweating. Mom, what the hell are you doing? You're supposed to be resting, I scolded. She smiled sheepishly and said, I just got this burst of energy. It won't last. Later that night, she said her heart was fluttering again and lay in bed while I rubbed her back and brought her chamomile tea. She loved chamomile tea. Said it calmed her down. I made it so often I stopped checking the box to see if we even had any left. I just kept buying it, assuming it disappeared. One day, I found 3 unopened boxes in the pantry. Another time, I offered to drive her to her cardiologist appointment because she said her heart medication needed adjusting. She got flustered and said the appointment had been rescheduled. They called while you were at work, but no voicemail, no email, no reminder card. I asked for the doctor's name and she said, oh, it's a new guy. I don't remember his name. That set off something inside me. Not anger, just a tiny, uncomfortable nudge, like the first cold breeze before a storm. I told myself to stop being suspicious. This was my mother. She wouldn't lie about something like this. She had raised me alone after all. My father died when I was 7. And she worked 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. I owed her everything. That's what I repeated to myself when I felt a little resentment creep in. When she called me selfish for spending too long at the grocery store. When she told me I was abandoning her for taking a Sunday off to see an old friend. She'd say things like, you'll miss me when I'm gone. Or, I'm not trying to guilt you, but it's hard knowing I don't have long. I believed her. I really did. Maybe not fully, not always, but enough. Enough to keep giving up pieces of myself. 2 years passed like that. I turned 22 in that same creaky house I grew up in, blowing out candles while she watched from the couch with a blanket wrapped around her. Make a wish, she said, coughing lightly. I wished she'd get better. I wished I could leave without guilt. I wished for a life that didn't revolve around someone else's illness. Eventually, my friends stopped checking in. I didn't blame them. I barely responded to texts. I didn't have anything to talk about besides blood pressure monitors and prescription refills. Every part of my world orbited my mom's condition. And still, there were little things that didn't add up, like how she never wanted me in her room when she was having a bad day, or how she always paid in cash when she went to the pharmacy, so there was no digital record. I once offered to pick up her pills for her, and she got visibly nervous and said, No, I already asked the neighbor. You're too busy. That night, I stood in the hallway and listened as she giggled on the phone with someone, her voice light and easy, no coughing, no pain. She sounded vibrant. But when I knocked on her door to ask if she wanted dinner, she quickly hung up, cleared her throat, and said, Oh, sweetheart, my chest hurts again. Could you bring me soup? I did. Of course I did. It would be several more months before I discovered the truth. Before everything came crashing down in the most surreal, gut-wrenching way imaginable. Before the carefully constructed illusion shattered with one accidental click. But in that moment, all I saw was my mother, pale and tired on the couch, and the weight of love twisted into obligation pressing down on my chest like a second heartbeat. It was a Tuesday afternoon, one of those early spring days where everything outside looks alive, but your own world feels like it's moving through molasses. I was home early from work. My shift had been cut due to a scheduling mix-up, and I figured I could finally catch up on laundry. Mom was out. She said she had a support group meeting, though she never invited me along or mentioned any names from it. I didn't press. She didn't like being questioned. I was folding towels in the living room when her laptop chimed on the coffee table. A new email. Normally, I wouldn't have dared touch it. Mom was possessive of her electronics, but I had this weird thought. What if it was something urgent? A doctor's update? A bill? I leaned over and glanced at the screen. Subject: your upcoming trip to Santorini. Confirmed. I blinked. At first, I figured it was spam. But when I opened the email, my breath caught. It wasn't just a promo. It was a full itinerary. 5 nights at a boutique hotel with a private pool, flight details, excursions booked. The reservation was made under her real name. The credit card was hers. Santorini. My mom had told me she could barely walk down the street without chest pains. She said the altitude made her dizzy. She said traveling could kill her. But this wasn't just a flight. It was a whole vacation, with a note. Requesting ocean view. Prefer top floor suite. Not traveling with children. My hands were shaking. I looked through the rest of her inbox. There were more. Hawaii. Tuscany. A reservation in Costa Rica that had already passed. Over Christmas, when she told me she'd been in bed with the flu. I remembered bringing her tea that week, listening to her sniffle under the covers, watching Lifetime movies. She hadn't been sick. She hadn't even been there. I backed away from the computer like it had burned me. My heart was pounding, but more than that, I felt hollow, like a pit had opened in my chest and swallowed everything. My time, my sacrifices, my guilt. I waited for her to come home. I sat in the armchair by the front door, laptop still open, the email glowing like a knife in the dark. When she walked in, cheerful and flushed from the outdoors, I stared at her like I was looking at a stranger. Hey, sweetheart, she chirped. You're home early. I stopped by the bakery. They had that lemon tart you love. I held up the laptop. Her smile faltered. What's this? I asked, my voice low. She set the pastry box down slowly. What do you mean? Santorini, in 3 weeks. Hotel, flights, excursions. She didn't answer at first. Her eyes darted to the screen, then to me. Something cold and calculating flickered behind them. You went through my email? I saw a notification, I said. I thought it was medical. I thought you were sick. She sighed, actually sighed, like I disappointed her. Anna, I don't expect you to understand. My mouth fell open. Don't expect me to... Are you kidding me? You told me you could die any day. You made me quit school. You let me believe you were bedridden at Christmas. I needed you here, she said softly, stepping closer. After your father died, I was alone for so long. Then you left for college, and it was just empty. Do you know what that does to a mother? What it does to... Mom, you lied to me. You manipulated me. For years. I did what I had to, she said, and there was steel in her voice now. You were going to leave and never come back. I could feel it. So yes, I made some things seem worse than they were. But look at all the time we've had together. Doesn't that mean something? My throat closed up. I took a step back like I could physically remove myself from her delusion. You stole years from me, I whispered. You made me afraid to live. Every time I smiled, I felt guilty. Every plan I made, I canceled. For you. I'm your mother, she snapped. I gave up my life for you. I worked double shifts. I went without so you could have braces, so you could go to dance camp. And the moment I needed you, really needed you, you were ready to disappear. I couldn't let that happen. She looked like she might cry. And for a second, just 1 second, I felt it. That old familiar pull, the need to comfort her, the guilt that had shaped every decision I made for the last 5 years. But it was drowned by rage. I missed my graduation, I said, tears blurring my vision. Dylan left me because I was too busy saving you. I haven't seen my friends in over a year, and you were sipping wine in Tuscany while I thought you were dying. Her lips thinned. You're being dramatic. That broke me. I pushed past her and ran upstairs, locking myself in my childhood room. The walls were still painted lilac. The posters I'd never taken down staring at me like I was still 17. I couldn't stop shaking. She didn't come up after me. Instead, I heard the TV flick on. Some cooking show. She laughed. She actually laughed. It was like my whole life had been rewritten in an instant. Nothing made sense. All those nights by her side, all those times I thought I was the only thing keeping her alive. Fake. Or worse, not necessary. The next morning she acted like nothing happened. Made coffee, asked me about work. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I began quietly planning. If she could lie that convincingly for that long, I couldn't trust her with anything. Not my time, not my truth, not my heart. I knew I had to get out. But first, I needed to know how deep the lies went. And I hadn't even seen her Instagram yet. I didn't sleep for days after that. I kept playing memories on a loop, trying to find the cracks I had missed. All the canceled appointments, the disappearing pills, the sudden attacks that always happened right before I had plans. The way she cried when I tried to move back to the city. The guilt she wielded like a weapon. Always subtle, always gentle, like a loving hand tightening into a noose. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I needed answers, not just suspicion. Cold, undeniable facts. So I started digging. Her laptop had no password. She'd always insisted it was because she trusted me. Ironic. I began by going through her inbox again, this time thoroughly. It was worse than I thought. There were half a dozen confirmation emails for past vacations I'd never heard about. Some during holidays, some during times she claimed she was bedridden with migraines or on bed rest due to heart palpitations. Each booking had details, receipts, room upgrades, massages, boat tours. One reservation even included a romantic couples dinner for two. Couples. I sat back in the chair, stunned. I'd never seen her date anyone in the last decade, but maybe I hadn't really been looking. Maybe she didn't want me to. Then I found the Instagram account. It took me longer to piece together, but the usernames matched one she used on old forums. The profile was private, but her bio was unmistakably her. Wanderer, wine lover, survivor of life. I requested to follow her from a fake account. It was accepted within an hour. What I saw made my stomach turn. Photos, dozens of them. Sunsets in Maui, champagne breakfasts in Barcelona, beach shots in swimsuits, laughing selfies with captions like "Viva la vida" and "Self-care isn't selfish." The timestamps lined up perfectly with every time I'd spoon-fed her soup in bed. I scrolled faster. I couldn't stop. Her face was full of life in every photo. Healthy, glowing, not even a trace of illness. No mention of heart problems. No signs of the dying woman I'd devoted the last 5 years to caring for. There were photos of her with people I didn't recognize. A man grinning beside her in matching robes at a spa. A woman holding hands with her at a vineyard tour. Friends? Lovers? I didn't know. I didn't care. She had a life. A full, beautiful, liberating life. And I had nothing. I stared at my reflection in the dark window. Pale, exhausted, 25 and still working part-time in a bookstore I hated. Living in my childhood room, too broken to figure out what I even wanted anymore. And she was out there living. I felt something crack inside me. The next day, I didn't speak to her. I started keeping my phone on me at all times. I changed my email passwords. I began setting up online therapy, even though I couldn't really afford it. I started secretly saving money from my paychecks. $50 here, $100 there. It wasn't much, but I was determined. She noticed. "You've been quiet lately," she said over dinner one night, stirring her soup with theatrical slowness. "I'm tired," I replied. "You should take better care of yourself. You don't want to end up like me." I stared at her. "Like you?" She nodded solemnly. "Frail, dependent." I nearly choked. "You're not frail, Mom. You're tan. From all your vacations." There was a pause. She blinked. "What?" "Don't play dumb." She set her spoon down. "Are you accusing me of something? I saw your travel bookings. I saw your Instagram." The shift in her expression was instant. She went from concern to icy calculation in a heartbeat. "So you're spying on me now?" "I was caring for you," I hissed. "While you were off enjoying yacht cruises and wine tastings, you lied to me about everything." She stood. "I had to. You wouldn't have stayed otherwise. You would have left me. You made me stay. With lies. I needed you. No, you wanted to control me. That's not the same thing." Her voice rose. "I am your mother. I sacrificed everything for you. You don't get to use that as a forever excuse," I snapped. "You taught me to live in fear, to feel guilty for existing. Do you know what that does to someone?" She looked genuinely stunned, like she didn't expect me to fight back. I left the table and went upstairs. I slammed the door for the first time in years. I could hear her pacing below, muttering to herself, slamming a few drawers for effect. But she didn't come up. Not that night. Not the next. The silence stretched between us like barbed wire. But for the first time, it felt like mine. After that night, everything changed. On the surface, nothing moved. We still ate under the same roof, still passed each other in the hallway, still exchanged cold, clipped good mornings, and dinners are in the fridge like two strangers trapped in a house that used to be a home. But I wasn't her caretaker anymore. I stopped asking how she felt. I stopped rushing to her side at the first cough or sigh. I stopped believing she was sick. She didn't take it well. She started leaving pamphlets for local clinics around the house. She'd groan dramatically when getting out of bed or clutch her side mid-conversation. One afternoon, she collapsed on the kitchen floor and just lay there until I stepped over her and walked outside. That was the last time she tried. I could see it in her eyes. Confusion. Like she didn't understand how her magic trick had stopped working. Like she'd been pulling the same rabbit out of the same hat for so long, she thought I'd never noticed the strings. But I noticed everything now. I spent my nights applying for remote jobs in other cities. Anything I could do part-time while building enough income to finally leave. I reconnected with old college friends, one of whom offered me a room in her place upstate. No pressure, she said. But the offer's open. That text was the first light I'd seen in a long, long tunnel. Still, I wasn't free. Not yet. One morning, I came downstairs to find her in the living room, scrolling through her phone, completely unaware I was watching. She looked fine. Better than fine. She looked vibrant. Her hair was styled. Her nails were done. Her cheeks had color. This wasn't a sick woman. This was someone planning her next escape. I walked into the room and without looking up, she said, "I'm thinking of going to Napa in September." I froze. "You're not even going to pretend anymore?" I asked quietly. She set the phone down and finally met my eyes. "Why should I? You already think the worst of me." "I don't think anything," I said. "I know what you've done." She exhaled through her nose like I was being unreasonable. I needed a break. From what? From lying to me? From making me your prisoner? "Oh, don't be so dramatic." I laughed. Actually laughed. It was bitter and hollow. "That's rich coming from you." She stood up, voice rising. "I gave up everything for you. My 20s, my 30s, every ounce of freedom. Gone. And when I asked for a little attention, a little help, you act like I dragged you to hell." "You didn't ask," I said through clenched teeth. "You lied. You invented a disease. You made me believe you were dying. That's not asking for help. That's psychological warfare." She opened her mouth to respond, but stopped. Her eyes scanned my face, and for the first time I saw it. The flicker of fear. Not because she was caught, but because I wasn't backing down. I wasn't the obedient daughter anymore. I wasn't the girl too afraid to live her own life. "I'm leaving," I said finally. She didn't speak. "I've got money saved, a place lined up. I'm going. I'm not telling you when, and I'm not asking permission." "Don't do this," she whispered. "You already did." I turned and walked out of the room. That night, she left her bedroom door open. A lamp was on. She was curled up in bed with a box of tissues and some old black and white movie playing softly. The same picture she used to stage every time she needed sympathy. But this time, I didn't stop. I didn't check on her. I went to my room, locked the door, and packed another bag. 2 days later, I was gone. I left a note, not for her, for me. "You had a choice. You chose control over love. I'm choosing freedom." She didn't call. Not for a week. Then the texts started. "Mom. Hope you're safe. Mom. I know you're angry, but I miss you. Mom. If you just talk to me." I didn't answer. I couldn't. I needed space. I needed air. And in that silence, I started to breathe again. The first night in my new place, I cried so hard I nearly made myself sick. Not because I missed her. Not even because I felt guilty, though I did. It was because for the first time in 5 years, I was alone. And no one needed me. That kind of freedom sounds romantic until it actually happens. Until you sit in a quiet room and realize your identity has been shaped around someone else's needs for so long that you don't even know what you like for dinner anymore. My friend, Marissa, gave me space. She didn't ask questions. She gave me the guest room, stocked with clean sheets, a small desk, a window that let in actual sunlight. I sat at that desk the second night and tried to write a list titled "Things I Want." I stared at the paper for an hour and only managed to write "Peace." I deleted all the social media apps from my phone. I turned off email notifications. I let myself sleep in. I walked to the coffee shop down the street and ordered the strongest espresso they had just to feel something. I was raw. Every hour that passed without my mom's voice in my ear, manipulating, guilt-tripping, controlling, felt both like healing and withdrawal. I kept waiting for some siren to go off, for her to call sobbing, for someone to say she'd been hospitalized, for me to feel needed again. But nothing came, just that void she left behind. 3 weeks in, I got an email from a community college I'd applied to a year before, just to see if I still qualified. They still had my info and were offering me a spot for the fall semester. It wasn't much, but it felt like the first real door in a long hallway. I enrolled. When I told Marissa, she cried. "You're finally doing something for you," she said, hugging me. I smiled, but inside I was terrified. I hadn't made a choice like that in so long without checking if my mom would approve. or more likely sabotage it. But she didn't know. She couldn't stop me. And then one night, a message came in that nearly knocked me off my feet. A DM from my mom's secret Instagram account. It was a selfie. Her in a straw hat, on a beach chair, drink in hand, palm trees in the background. The caption read, "Paradise is better when you earn it." No context, no apology, no explanation. Just that. I stared at the screen for a long time. My stomach twisted into something ugly. Was this a taunt? A final jab? A reminder that while I was still scraping myself together, she was sipping cocktails without a care in the world? I didn't reply. I didn't block her either. I let the message sit there, glowing like a scar. A week later, she sent another. "You'll see one day. Mothers do what they must to protect their children." That was the moment something inside me died. Because I believed her once, I believed that love meant sacrifice, and sacrifice meant pain. But it doesn't. Love isn't manipulation. It isn't control. It isn't keeping someone small so they'll never leave you. Love lets you grow, even if that means growing away. I started therapy shortly after that. The first session was just me crying and whispering, "I don't know who I am without her." And my therapist said, "That's exactly where we begin." Each week, I peeled off layers. Each week I unpacked another memory I'd buried beneath shame and guilt and devotion. The time she made me cancel my trip to see my best friend because she had a flare-up. The time I cried on my birthday because she told me no one else would ever love me the way she did. The time I sat outside a club crying in the rain because I felt like leaving her for one night made me a monster. I wasn't a monster. I was a daughter who had been emotionally taken hostage. And now I was free. Kind of. Freedom is messy. It comes in waves. Some nights I still wake up thinking I've missed her meds, that she's calling from the next room, that I've failed her. But then I remember, I didn't fail. I survived. I took the broken pieces of myself that she left behind and I started building something new, something real. And for the first time in years, it's mine. I never blocked her. People ask me why. Why keep that line open? Why not cut her off completely? The truth is, I don't know. Maybe it's because some tiny bruised part of me still hopes she'll change. Or maybe it's because I want her to see what my life looks like without her hands around my throat. Either way, I kept her messages. Read them when I was strong enough. Ignored them when I wasn't. Fall semester started. And for the first time since I was 20, I walked into a classroom without the weight of her voice in my head. I sat in the back, took notes like my life depended on it, and cried in the bathroom during my first break. Not because I was sad, but because I'd made it. I was really, finally here. I reconnected with Dylan, too. Just once. We got coffee. He asked what happened, and I told him everything. He apologized for not understanding back then. I didn't blame him. I barely understood myself. We didn't get back together. That wasn't the point. It was closure. Proof that I could have relationships that weren't built on rescuing or being rescued. By winter, I had new friends. I was renting my own place. Small, cluttered, beautiful in its own way. I hung fairy lights in the kitchen. I bought mugs I liked, not just the cheapest ones. I started sleeping through the night. And then, one rainy Saturday in January, a package arrived. No return address. Just my name, written in handwriting I knew by heart. Inside was a photo album. Not one from my childhood. This was new. Inside were pictures from all the vacations. Her on a camel in Morocco. Her in a hot air balloon over Cappadocia. Her dancing at what looked like a Caribbean resort, smiling, alive, free. Tucked between the pages was a note. "One day, you'll understand. I only did what I had to so we wouldn't lose each other. I love you more than you'll ever know. Mom." No apology, no admission, just another attempt to rewrite the narrative. I almost threw it away, but I didn't. I left the album on my shelf, spine out, next to my textbooks and therapy journal. A reminder. A reminder that I survived her love. A few weeks ago, I got another notification. She posted again on that secret Instagram. I don't know if she forgot I could see it or just didn't care. It was her, in another beach chair, book in hand, sunglasses on, legs stretched toward the sea. The caption read, "Healing looks good on me." And I laughed. Because it does. It looks great on me, too. I didn't comment, didn't like it, didn't message. Instead, I closed the app, turned off my phone, and stepped outside into the sunlight. I had plans with friends, homework waiting, a job interview lined up for Monday. My world had grown bigger than her lies, bigger than her control, bigger than the little house where time stood still. I was living again. Not for her, not for anyone else, just me. And for the first time in years, that was enough.